Baik, itu adalah sedikit naratif industri semikonduktor di Malaysia yang dibawakan ataupun disediakan oleh World Economic Forum. Tapi kita nak tahu sejauh manakah realiti industri ini dan bagaimana untuk kita mengangkat industri ini menjadi pemacu kepada hak pelaburan negara, dan kita nak tahu juga apakah peranan pihak berwajib untuk kita mengangkat naratif ataupun inisiatif ini. Jadi untuk kita berbincang lanjut, I would like to welcome Datuk Sri Wong Siew Hai, the President of Malaysia Semiconductor Industry Association, MSIA. Good morning, Datuk.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining me this morning. Perhaps firstly, we could start with providing an overview of the current state of semiconductor in Malaysia. Perhaps you can highlighting the strength or perhaps the key components that we should know about the semiconductor.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much, and thank you for having me with Astro, AWANI. First of all, Malaysia started the semiconductor industry in 1972. So we already 52 years. So we celebrated 50 years in 2022. From 1972 to 2022, we grew a CAGR of 17%, from about 230 million export to about 593 billion ringgit export. So it is showing that we are practically doubling our export every 4.5 years. So we started with assembly tests, diversified into many other segments of the electronics industry, including LED, solar, automotive, and so on. And not just assembly tests, we also expanded into related industry like automation, equipment, tooling, precision engineering. And not only that, our people have also taken on bigger roles in this semiconductor industry. They started managing only the factories in Malaysia, but then today our leaders have taken on global operations, managing global operations, some even in profit and loss. And not only that, we have also other benefits like going into GBS and other related functions that support the semiconductor industry. So that's where we are. So we have developed, Malaysia have developed a whole series of ecosystem that supports a global industry, the semiconductor industry. And that will include things like, just now I mentioned automation, but also services and chemicals and so on that support the industry. So the ecosystem has been built over time. And the latest one we had was with substrate, with tooling, we call it fab equipments, and many others that support the industry.
Like you mentioned, Datuk Sri, the ecosystem as a whole is going towards a positive trajectory, a positive, good trajectory, I might say. But perhaps when I say a good development, there's always another side of it.
Yes.
Perhaps loopholes that we can look at. So what role does Malaysia currently play in the global sector of semiconductor supply chain, and how do you see this evolving in the coming years, looking at the other side, or perhaps the bad side of it?
Okay, Malaysia now ranks 6th in terms of global export, and 7% of global trade flows through Malaysia. Malaysia has about 13% of the back-end capacity, which is assembly and test capacity. And so it is a significant hub. So remember, during the COVID in 2021, Malaysia was highlighted as one of the countries that was not able to ship chips to the automotive industry. That's how people start recognizing that, wow, you have such a big operation here. And with the recent Financial Times report and the New York Times report and many other reports by the international media, now show that Malaysia is really a significant hub. So that's where I think we are. And there's a lot of opportunities in it for us to move forward, especially with the geopolitical tension that is happening around the world.
And speaking of semiconductor industry, of course, there'll be a lot of challenges from left, right, or even in front of us. Of course, when we compare our region, our country with other countries in the same region, we have Singapore, Indonesia. So what are the best strategies that we can implement to address all of these challenges, Datuk Sri?
So I think we need to look at it in total. Okay, so Malaysia, number one, has 52 years of experience. And we have people who are able to perform and deliver to what the companies want, whether it's corporate, MNC, or whether it is local companies. So this is the one of the most important, I think, quality that we have in terms of performance. So consistently for 50 years we have been performing in the sense that when new technologies comes in, okay, they are all sent to Malaysia to debug, to commission, to try engineering and so on until they are ready for manufacturing. So there's one aspect of our talent has been very well so-called trained or experienced in this area. Secondly, we have, of course, friendly business government, a good ecosystem, and the significance of the whole system, the infrastructure that has helped Malaysia to grow. So as you can see, recently, Intel announced a $7 billion US dollars investment, AT&S 1.7 billion euro, Infineon 5 billion euro. Why? They have been here for 50 years and still expanding. Infineon been here 30, 40 years, still expanding. This is a testimony to the trust they have in the country and the people. We should be very proud.
But right now we can see that the pace of technological investment is very fast. We can't, as much as we try, we can't even catch up with the pace of the technological advancements. We have AI and many more right now. So how can Malaysia position itself to attract and to be more attractive, to attract all the investments or the right talent pool?
I think Malaysia have been quite successful in attracting MNCs or foreign companies, FDIs. We have shown that the investment last year of 329 billion was very significant, and out of which 46% of manufacturing, and out of which 56% are from E&E industry. So we have shown that we are able to attract the FDIs. At the same time, you know, these have opened opportunities for our Malaysian companies to participate in this industry. However, one of the challenges that we face is how to grow Malaysian champions. You know, attracting FDI is good. At the same time, we need a parallel track that, you know, that we can build Malaysian global companies. So we have a few which are big in our country, but not so big yet in the global scene. So that's another area that we need to focus on.
Speaking of which, where the technological advancements includes AI, Internet of Things, IoT, and also 5G. Right now we have 5G. And how do we stay ahead of time, ahead of all of these technological investments, so that we don't miss out any, how do we say, updates on semiconductor industry?
So the strategy Malaysia has been taking is to track FDIs, and the FDIs that we get actually brings in the latest technology. So Intel's investment is bringing the latest technology, same with Infineon and so on. So the issue here is then how is our Malaysian companies going to keep up, adapt and follow that trend, okay? And that's where the challenge is. So I think Malaysian companies are working very closely with the multinationals to understand the trend and see how can they position themselves. So these are the strategies that we are looking at. At the same time, we encourage the multinationals and the local large companies to buy local. So can we develop the local, give them the experience to get into the new technology, whether it's AI, IoT, smart manufacturing. They need to get on so that they can be globally competitive. Otherwise, they will fall behind. So this is one of the strategies we're looking at. Buy local, encourage more development of equipments and processes and so on locally, and then become globally competitive, because that will give them the opportunity to go global. Because once they invest in the equipment and the local large MNC purchase them, then they will be spread around to other locations of the same company all over the world. So that will be a good strategy, I think, for our Malaysian companies to continue to grow and position themselves by keeping up with the changes in the technology.
But it will be easier for MNCs, but somehow for the smaller industry players, they might take some time to adapt or perhaps adopt towards all these technological advancements. Even AI, we need to have such awareness to educate them the importance of these new updates or new technological advancements for them. So how can we create those awareness for these smaller industry players so that they can accept this kind of updates?
So I think we have done quite a few things already. The government have done, you know, telling companies to go into Industry 4.0, assess to see how ready they are, and those who are not ready or who are ready, how can they move them forward by giving them support in their projects and so on. So that's one part, education and how to get moving. Then we have under the E&E Productivity Nexus, under MPC, which I'm the champion, we conduct a lot of courses, for the SMEs to, one, educate that this is the technology that are coming and this is how you can get on. Because most of the people think that this adopting new technology is going to be expensive. But we show them that step by step, you don't need to be expensive. You can do it phases by phases. And we allow them to experience how to use, for example, IoT. Now they experience how to apply AI, either in their equipment, in their process, to improve productivity. So stage by stage, I think that awareness is created, and now the company need to decide how to embark. And there are many, I call it government support given for this kind of projects to help companies to embrace and adopt new technology in their manufacturing or in their business. So hopefully that will help Malaysia and our Malaysian companies to be globally competitive, because it is a world of competitiveness. We have to compete. And therefore, with this, hopefully the Malaysian companies will seize the opportunity and improve their processes and manufacturing
of course,
operations. Yeah,
we need that synergy, especially from the right authorities and the governments, to educate and create those awareness towards our industry players. And as well, we want to know that what are the key components of semiconductor strategic plan for Malaysia, and how do you envision it driving growth and competitiveness in the industry?
Okay. So in the past, you look at RMK, our RMK. For the first time, RMK 12 highlighted the semiconductor industry and the E&E industry as one of the 8 strategic high-tech, high-impact industry. In the past, RMK is all classified under manufacturing. So there is a recognition that this is an important and strategic industry for the country. You can also hear it from the Prime Minister in the recent press announcement. Then in the NIMP, the new Industrial Master Plan, they also highlighted the E&E as one of the sector that they are going to look at. And so you can see even from the KL20, they also announced the funds to support the semiconductor industry to go up the value chain. So all that putting together shows that we are, giving it very good focus. Okay, so this is one of the things that I think Malaysia is trying to do. Even with the NNMP, they say go up move up the value chain into economic complexity and accelerate the adoption of technology. So in this semiconductor environment, we are strong already in assembly tests. Still there are challenges. The next step is to move them into advanced packaging, because the technology is moving into advanced packaging or chiplets and so on. Now, MNCs are already moving. Okay. Our local Malaysian companies need to move along. So that will be one of the areas to look at. Then to move up the value chain, we are encouraging government to attract a reputable company to build a fab in Malaysia, to build a new ecosystem other than assembly test, a fab ecosystem. We have some fabs now, but we want to bring even newer technology fabs. Then we are encouraging the companies to move into IC design, so that it will be the highest end of the supply chain, of the whole chain. So you can see that there's a lot of announcement talking about how are we going to achieve all this, So the direction is set. Now the question is to get into the next step to go for implementation. So today, for example, we have 3 or 4 IC design companies, Malaysian. We have many multinational IC design companies in the country. So we want to encourage the parallel track. Okay, continue with the MNC approach. However, we want to also develop the domestic companies.
Like Datuk Sri said, we have all those frameworks, policies ready. Right now, we want to focus on the implementation. So how do we ensure that this framework and also policies can be rolled out or play? I mean, how do we ensure this, the effectiveness of this whole frameworks and policies that be rolled out by the government?
Yeah. I think, first of all, we got to look at what are the challenges that we are facing, okay, and what are the opportunities that are there. So let me just frame the scenario. So in 2022, 2022, okay, the global semiconductor revenue was $574 billion US dollars. It's projected to grow to $1 trillion by 2030. So it's a tremendous growth, nearly double. And then Malaysia, in 2022, we exported 593 billion ringgit of export. Just to keep up with the global growth, we need to ship something like 1.2 billion electronics export. So for that growth, how is Malaysia going to position itself to capture this opportunity? And then with the geopolitical tension, we have China +1, US +1, Europe +1, everybody is +1, and we hope Malaysia is the one, okay? And these opportunities are all available. Then we come to what can we do in terms of challenges. We have a few challenges. One is adoption of technology. I just explained. Technology are changing. MNC is already moving, and we need to catch up and at least figure out how to acquire technology. Two is our talent. How do we then build our talent to support all this growth? So a few things have been done working with the government on, for example, to attract more our SBM leavers or school leavers to join the manufacturing industry, especially electronics industry. So we have what we call Academy in Factory. We started with that when MSIA recommended it to the government by saying that if the employee joined this factory for 18 months, after 18 months skill training, classroom training, acquiring all the knowledge, they can become a manufacturing technician. So there is a career in front of them. So we said, hey, you join, there is a career, not just forever become a worker, okay?
Yes, we start early.
Start like that. Okay, this is one of the programs. Then we do training for the engineers into IC design, into different areas. And then we have to take care of the so-called unemployed engineers who somehow did not get a job. We train them in order to put them on into the job. We did that program now for the last few years. Nearly 100% of them are placed. This year a little more difficult because they are slowed down in the industry, last year especially. So we couldn't achieve 100% yet, but we're getting close, as hiring is happening. So programs like this we need to do in order to get ourselves ready for this growth. But there are many other things that we need to do, including new deals for business, which we are working with the government to identify areas of improvement for the country so that the companies here have the ease of doing business. So one of them that we have accomplished and working very closely with YB Rafizi and the Pemula is to improve the approval for expatriate working pass, from in the past, it's been somewhere between 6 to 12 months. Now we are doing it in 10 days. And for fast track, even 5 days. So these are the things that if we can do, and many of these items that we think are, preventing productivity, or, we can improve productivity by doing all this so that the companies are better planning, they know it's predictable and so on. So these are the things that we are doing so that we can position Malaysia to be ranked. I think we talk about the goal from 27 to 12, and at the same time be globally competitive. We become a choice location, a choice country, because when all this become easy, you have a talent development program, and you have ease of doing business and infrastructure that's been built, then you will attract more investors to the country.
Perhaps we have about 1 minute left. A little bit of aspirations and outlook from you and about the semiconductor industry, perhaps in 5 to 10 years' time, and what are those steps that should be taken to actually realize the strategic plan that's been rolled out?
I already mentioned about the growth, okay, from global growth from 574 billion to 1 trillion. And I expect that over the next 6 years, I would expect a super cycle. And Malaysia have to capture that super cycle because everywhere around the world, fabs have been built. And we are strong at assembly tests. We got to get ready. And I know that all the companies are expanding, ready for that, hopefully for that growth. Then we got to get our talent to be ready. And the strategy has been for many countries is to use other countries' talent. Singapore is one of them. They use our talent. And I think the government have to look at how can we position Malaysia when we capture that super cycle, how do we get all the talent in place to support it? So that will be a challenge, and hopefully we address that issue. Our aspiration, I think, to be IC design all the way from front end to back end, IC all the way to manufacturing, such that if we can do all that, we become probably one of the most significant country in Southeast Asia to have that capability. And we got to maintain at least 6th, if not 5th position in the global export ranking.
Amazing, and hopefully we may achieve all those aspirations that were said by Datuk Sri. So I would like again to thank Datuk Sri Wong Siew Hai, President of Malaysia Semiconductor Industry Association. Thank you for joining us this morning, and you can find the whole discussion on AstroAwani.com and all of our social media platforms. And we'll go for a short break. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Aneka jaringan holdings berhad mencatatkan hasil sebanyak 54.22 juta ringgit pada suku kedua 2024, peningkatan yang berangsangkan sebanyak 11.24 juta ringgit berbanding suku sama tahun 2023. Pertumbuhan ketat ini mencerminkan pelaksanaan berkesan projek dan inisiatif strategik kumpulan serta pemulihan positif dalam industri pembinaan. Pemaju hartanah bersepadu OCR Group Berhad melalui anak syarikat milik penuhnya OCR Templar Sdn Bhd memeterai perjanjian usaha sama JVA dengan Leka Property Sdn Bhd untuk membangunkan projek kediaman bertanah di Templar Rawang dengan anggaran nilai pembangunan kasar GDV 313 juta ringgit. OCR akan menerajui pembangunan projek, memanfaatkan kepakarannya dalam pembangunan hartanah dan rekod prestasi terbukti berjaya melaksanakan projek. Untung bersih United Plantations Berhad melonjak 18.5% kepada 132.9 juta ringgit pada suku pertama berakhir 31 Mac 2024 berbanding 112.1 juta ringgit pada suku sama tahun sebelumnya, didorong sumbangan lebih tinggi daripada segmen peladangan. Hasil kumpulan bagi suku semasa juga meningkat kepada 476.7 juta ringgit berbanding 459.9 juta ringgit bagi suku sama tahun lalu disebabkan peningkatan hasil bagi segmen peladangan menerusi harga minyak sawit mentah dan isi rong sawit. Laporan penuh di saluran 501 dan astroawani.com serta daganus.com.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Cara kita mendapat berita kian berubah. Melalui media sosial maupun saluran digital yang lain serta kaca TV. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini.
Kita buat sesuatu yang berbeza.
Berteraskan acuan verifikasi yang diamalkan supaya setiap fakta adalah sahih. Daripada analisis pelbagai sudut yang mendalam, laporan-laporan khas dan perbincangan yang membina negara. Inklusif, suara rakyat kami ajukan. Keseimbangan persepsi kami pastikan. Kerana setiap cerita mempunyai impak yang tersendiri dan perlu dibawa dengan penelitian yang terperinci. Pastikan Astro Awani menjadi pilihan anda tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada. Saluran berita paling dipercayai di Malaysia.
Bertemu kembali dalam Niaga Awani. Kita teruskan dengan Kementerian Pelaburan, Perdagangan dan Industri MITI optimis bahawa prestasi perdagangan akan lebih baik pada 2024 meskipun persekitaran global mencabar dengan ketidaktentuan ekoran ketegangan geopolitik. Menterinya Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz memaklumkan bagi suku pertama 2024, perdagangan negara mencatatkan pertumbuhan kukuh sebanyak 7.1% kepada 690.59 bilion ringgit.
Beliau menjelaskan pemulihan ekonomi China dijangka menyokong perdagangan negara memandangkan ekonomi kedua terbesar dunia itu adalah rakan dagang utama Malaysia. Tambahnya, MITI juga meninjau mempelbagaikan pasaran perdagangan termasuk ke negara pasaran baru seperti Afrika dan Amerika Selatan.
We are concluding one, hopefully, UAE by June. She wanted end of the year, I said June just now. So that will be important because they will be our first FTA with a Middle East nation. In fact, it's not just an FTA, it's a comprehensive economic partnership agreement which will cover digital, green, everything else.
Sementara itu, Tengku Zafrul menjelaskan MITI juga memperbaharui fokusnya dengan berpaksikan kepada 4 tunjang utama iaitu ekonomi, kelestarian, rakyat dan inovasi. Menurut beliau, dengan fokus yang diberi nafas baru itu, visi MITI kini adalah menjadikan Malaysia sebagai pemacu ekonomi baru Asia dan menjadi hub peneraju perdagangan serta pelaburan untuk perniagaan cemerlang dan terbaik dunia. Mengenai pelan strategik semikonduktor, Tengku Zafrul menjelaskan pihaknya bersama industri dan agensi kerajaan lain berusaha tampil dengan pelan strategik itu. Beliau memaklumkan semikonduktor adalah industri penting kepada negara dan pelan komprehensif diperlukan untuk meningkatkan rantaian bekalan dan menjadikannya terus kekal relevan menuju ke depan.
Mesyuarat Jawatankuasa Penasihat Program PAC 2024 akan meneliti projek penyelidikan dan isu dalam industri sawit Malaysia bagi memastikan ia akan terus mencatat pertumbuhan pesat ke arah masa depan industri lebih mampat. Dalam kenyataan pada Rabu, katanya perkara itu adalah antara dibincangkan dalam mesyuarat anjuran Lembaga Minyak Sawit Malaysia selama 4 hari bermula Selasa.
Pengerusi MPOB Datuk Muhammad Helmi Osman Bashar berkata, dengan penumpuan tahap hala 7 strategik, MPOB komited menangani isu-isu industri dengan berkesan di samping memperhebat usaha penyelidikan dan pembangunan. Ketua Pengarah MPOB Datuk Dr. Ahmad Parviz Gulam Kadir pula berkata, ahli PAC meneliti serta membincangkan pelbagai inisiatif, kaedah-kaedah baru, peningkatan bahan tanaman dan pengurusan kebun cekap sebagai strategi utama memastikan peningkatan hasil signifikan. Menurut kenyataan itu lagi, mesyuarat PAC adalah platform khusus MPOB untuk memupuk idea inovasi dan baru serta memperkemas strategi penyelidikan MPOB memenuhi keperluan industri sawit dengan memanfaatkan peluang serta keperluan global.
Sementara itu, tahap kesedaran masyarakat terutama komuniti industri perniagaan tempatan dalam mendaftar harta intelek masih rendah. Ketua Pengarah Perbadanan Harta Intelek Malaysia MyIPO Kamal Kormin, pendaftaran dibuat melalui perbadanan ini membolehkan syarikat serta pemilik entiti perniagaan mendapat jaringan keselamatan terutama dari segi perlindungan hak cipta serta pelbagai faedah lain. Mudah saja, kini boleh daftar secara online.
Jadi faedahnya saya boleh 3 lah yang utama lah. Pada yang utama, pertama sekali tadi menentukan hak milik siapa.
Milik kita punya.
Hak milik kita punya. Kalau tak daftar,
siapa-siapa boleh
siapa
pakai.
Boleh claim.
Boleh claim.
Siapa boleh claim.
Ya, betul.
Ini saya punya. Ini tapi sebagai bukti ini kena daftar pertama. Siapa yang daftar dulu lah dia punya.
Dia daftar kat mana?
Daftar MyIPO. Kita agensi yang diiktiraf oleh kerajaan. Tunggal untuk daftar. Jadi ini adalah untuk urusan sebenarnya untuk urusan perdagangan sebenarnya.
Betul.
Pendaftaran bila ada bisnes orang nak invest, nak melabur, kenalah bukti apa buktinya ini tuan punya. Kena daftar itu salah satu. Yang kedua, menjana pendapatan. Kenapa daftar ini menjana pendapatan? Dia jaminan. Jaminan tu produk tu tuan. Jadi saya nak melabur tuan, ya. Saya mesti apa jaminan saya? Saya punya dah daftar, dah lindungi, orang tak boleh tiru. Saya ada hak. Itu investment lah. Dan yang penting sekali dia boleh dipindah milik. Dia boleh franchise, kemudian dia boleh perlesenan.
Macam-macam boleh.
Boleh. Yang baru ni, kaedah yang baru dia boleh dicarakan di bank juga.
Oh, boleh.
Kita sedang dalam mengemas kini lah.
Ujar beliau, antara sebab kurangnya pendaftaran adalah disebabkan kurangnya pengetahuan mengenai kelebihan dan faedah pendaftaran harta intelek kepada perniagaan serta sikap tidak ambil peduli kepentingan melindungi harta intelek dalam kalangan masyarakat. Jelas beliau, langkah untuk mendaftar dalam melindungi produk, entiti, syarikat dengan mendapatkan pelindungan hak cipta meningkatkan lagi soal pelindungan inovasi mereka selain membolehkan tahap kepercayaan terhadap produk mereka lebih terjamin. 6 kategori harta intelek, patent iaitu reka cipta, cap dagangan melibatkan logo, hak cipta, reka bentuk perindustrian, petunjuk geografi serta susun atur litar bersepadu. Pendaftaran pelindungan harta intelek boleh dibuat secara dalam talian IP Online 2U atau IP 2U Mobile Apps. Berkata demikian dalam program agenda AWANI pada Rabu, sempena sambutan Hari Harta Intelek Sedunia yang bakal disambut pada 26 April ini.
Astro AWANI dinobat sebagai pemenang anugerah Digital Media Awards 2024 bagi kategori adaptasi teknologi kecerdasan buatan AI dalam pemberitaan terbaik di rantau Asia. Menerusi inisiatif Tanya AI, projek yang menggabungkan teknologi AI terkini serta kualiti kewartawanan yang terbaik sekaligus meletakkan Astro AWANI di hadapan dalam adaptasi, aplikasi dan penggunaan teknologi kecerdasan buatan AI dalam kalangan media serantau.
Menurut Ketua Pengarang Astro AWANI, Asyraf Ismail, kemenangan ini adalah pengiktirafan terhadap komitmen Astro AWANI dalam menjamin kualiti dan kredibiliti kewartawanan pada masa sama, menyantuni teknologi dan inovasi terkini. Katanya inisiatif Tanya AI bermatlamatkan meletakkan falsafah penggunaan AI ke arah mengukuhkan kualiti produk kepada pengguna dan memperteguh keupayaan insan dan dunia kewartawanan agar tidak hanyut di badai kemajuan teknologi. Astro AWANI turut merangkul anugerah utama untuk kategori laman gaya hidup terbaik bagi media kecil dan sederhana menerusi projek laman web Piala Asia Qatar 2023. Astro AWANI juga menang anugerah perak untuk kategori utama projek semakan fakta terbaik menerusi inisiatif AI-powered fact-checking lab.
Is the other than Astro AWANI, AI-powered fact-checking lab. Mr. Ashraf Ismail, please come up on stage to receive your award.
Anugerah Media Digital Asia pertama kali dilancarkan pada tahun 2009 mengiktiraf organisasi media berita yang menjadi peneraju dan inovasi dalam strategi media digital. 136 penyertaan dihantar tahun ini dan majlis anugerah berprestij ini diadakan sempena persidangan Media Digital Asia, persidangan media digital serantau terbesar di Asia Pasifik.
AME Real Estate Investment Trust Emirate mencatat pendapatan hartanah bersih NPI sebanyak 11.4 juta ringgit pada suku keempat tahun kewangan 2024, meningkat 11.9% daripada 10.2 juta ringgit pada suku yang sama sebelumnya. Pencapaian ini didorong oleh peningkatan kukuh 15.9% dalam pendapatan sewa kepada 12.5 juta ringgit daripada 10.8 juta ringgit sebelumnya. Hong Leong Investment Bank HLIB Research mengunjurkan jualan keseluruhan industri kenderaan TIV sebanyak 720,000 unit pada tahun ini berbanding unjuran Persatuan Automotif Malaysia MAA sebanyak 740,000 unit. MAA sebelum melaporkan jualan keseluruhan industri kenderaan TIV sebanyak 71,100 unit pada Mac 2024 mengakhiri suku pertama tahun ini dengan jualan sejumlah 202,200 unit. Prinsipal Malaysia mengumumkan pelancaran dana pendapatan dinamik global bagi pelabur yang mencari rumusan pelaburan pelbagai aset baharu di pasaran global. Dana itu bertujuan menyediakan pendapatan dan pertumbuhan modal yang lebih stabil dengan melabur dalam dana sasaran yang dilaburkan secara fleksibel. Laporan penuh di saluran 501 dan astroawani.com serta dagangnus.com.
Kerjasama lebih erat untuk bagaimana memperkuat ASEAN. ASEAN sekarang kan di crossroad, jadi Indonesia dan Malaysia bisa menjadi pilar untuk memperkuat kesatuan dari ASEAN.
So we see a tremendous future for hydrogen to be a part of the decarbonization of the planet. At this point of time, Malaysia and India, and where we have been sort of focusing on developing projects.
All right, we are now in the topic of workforce in Malaysia, where the need of upskilling is definitely crucial to stay competitive and future-proof of their careers. This is especially when we see technological revolutions and advancements, a job position tend to emerge as well. However, while 81% of Malaysian employees see professional development as important, while a staggering 61% lack access to the training they really need. And to discuss further on this matter, we have ready on the line is Celine Ting, the co-founder and managing director of Open Academy. I want to say thank you very much, Celine, for joining me. Firstly, maybe you can share with us what other challenges do individuals face, especially in the efforts of upskilling?
Thank you so much for having me. So as individuals, they face multiple different kinds of challenges when it comes to upskilling. The biggest one right now, especially in today's day and age and climate, it's really time constraint. Not being able to just balance work, their responsibilities, other commitments make it very, very difficult for individuals to actually even dedicate the time to find time to attend classes, complete assignments, do assessments. They just don't have the time to be able to do that. So time constraint is one of the biggest challenges, but beyond just time constraint, it's actually financial barriers. So not having the funds or the appropriate amount of funds to be able to attend the trainings that they want to attend, because a lot of the training programs tend to come with quite a hefty price tag. So that can actually prevent a lot of individuals from wanting to put in the financial resources with the other responsibilities that they have to attend upskilling courses. Last is that many upskilling programs right now actually requires some access to technology, which is computers, internet access, software applications. And if any individuals actually lack any access to any of these resources, technology, they actually struggle to participate in any of the online courses available or even virtual training. So these are some of the main challenges that individual faces when it comes to their upskilling efforts.
All right, one of the three main challenges, as you mentioned, the time constraint, financial costs, and even the lacking access of technological, digital. And what can the strategies be implemented by Malaysian organizations to provide more accessible and more tailored training programs to their employees, especially considering the limitations in technology access?
I think the key word here is accessibility, right? You mentioned just now, making it more accessible. If technology or having the right software is really a concern, we know that many Malaysians or every Malaysian has smartphones available already. So many Malaysian people already have access to smartphones. So being able to ensure that your programs, your online programs are mobile friendly, or whatever softwares or systems that you have are all mobile friendly, are actually very important, because then it allows employees to access any of these training materials, courses, or resources anytime, anywhere. They don't need to be limited to a laptop or internet connectivity because they already have their smartphone. So just making it more accessible, making it more mobile friendly can already kind of curb one of the challenges. And then secondly is just really thinking about providing more flexible training schedules that accommodate your employees' work commitments, their personal lives, time zones even. So just providing more of a self-learning, flexible training kind of schedule rather than fixing it to, oh, you need to do it in 2 days, 3 days, making it an option for them to do it on their self-paced kind of learning, recorded sessions for your employees so that they can access at any time. A few ways that organizations can basically implement to help their employees have more time to access upskilling content, make upskilling content more accessible to them.
And accessible, more flexible. And talking about micro-learning, how does micro-learning features helps address the need for a convenient upskilling?
So we know that people's attention span is getting shorter. Nobody really wants to watch a video that's longer than 5 minutes anymore, especially as we know the rise of TikTok and everything. So micro-learning actually delivers content in very small and digestible chunks. It focuses on one topic at a time, so there's a really huge focus. So it actually allows users and learners to be able to consume and retain content a little bit better. It allows them to be able to focus on one specific area or skill gap, and they don't feel overwhelmed by large amounts of information. So micro-learning can actually really contribute and make learning a little bit more accessible, just because if you have 5 minutes in a day, you can basically learn at least one thing or one point. There are also a lot of micro-learning platforms that are designed to be more mobile-friendly, which means that it's easier for learners to be able to access micro-learning content, micro-learning courses, and it makes learning on the go so much easier. As long as they have some time on the LRT, when they're waiting for the bus, they will be able to just pull out their phone and do some form of micro-learning courses, 5 minutes in a day. That just makes it a little bit easier. And lastly, because of the nature of micro-learning being in shorter form, the content is shorter in general. That also means that it's actually generally more affordable. It gives opportunities for more learners to want to discover, right? They don't feel so intimidated by the price because of the affordability of micro-learning courses. They want to discover, they want to experiment before actually committing to something in the longer term. So these are some of the ways that actually micro-learning features can help when it comes to the accessibility of upskilling.
Can you share some of the examples of case studies demonstrating its effectiveness in facilitating convenient upskilling for the employees?
Sure. Let's take Duolingo, for example. I'm sure you guys have heard of Duolingo. It's upskilling platform, micro-learning upskilling platform when it comes to languages, right? So studies have shown that actually if you do about 34 hours of Duolingo practice, it's almost equivalent to a semester of college level language courses. They've also found that when students actually use Duolingo as a supplementary learning tool, so when it's an additional learning tool to their classroom's instruction, they actually perform better than students who just purely do traditional classroom instruction alone. So Duolingo is a great case study when it comes to micro-learning in languages. The second one, I would say, I'm sure you've also heard of LinkedIn Learning.
Yes.
LinkedIn Learning is a very popular platform. It offers a very wide range of micro-learning courses. The nature of LinkedIn Learning allows for flexible learning and also having micro content on the platform. So because of those two elements, a lot of employees became a lot less intimidated to start something and to also be able to finish something, right? So they are less intimidated because there's flexible learning, which means they can learn at their own pace. It's micro content, so they're not committed for hours and hours in front of their laptop. It increases when it comes to the employees' participation and also productivity. So these two are some really strong case studies when it comes to the micro-learning element.
And maybe you want to check on, my next question is, how can Malaysia's worker use community-driven learning initiative and peer networks even to improve their skill and adapt to the digital economy, and regardless, we can say, of their current skill level or even career stage?
Sure. There are actually many community-driven learning and initiatives in Malaysia. Just being able to take time to attend things like local meetups, workshops, seminars, networking events even, right? There are many networking events organized by a lot of industry organizations, professional groups, community organizations in general. Some are even free. So a lot of learners or people can actually leverage on these kinds of events as an opportunity to learn, right, to upskill, to talk to industry practitioners, to exchange ideas and learn from practitioners in their industry or across different fields. Another way that learners can actually leverage on peer-to-peer networks is actually to find a way to seek mentors. Through these events, it's a great way to actually seek mentors and also different other learning opportunities. You want to be able to find someone that you feel like is an experienced professional that can provide you with some form of guidance, advice, and support in your career development journey. I think that's very important. So if you actively are looking for, mentors, seeking for advice, guidance, this is a way that you can leverage to be able to, upskill, to be able to grow when it comes to your career. Peer-to-peer networks or having a peer-to-peer situation is actually very important when it comes to upskilling or even self-learning, because you keep each other accountable. If you have someone that is learning with you, a peer that's learning with you, and if you have a mentor that is guiding you through the process, you keep each other accountable. You have someone to upskill together with, you have someone to go through the challenges of your courses with. It makes you accountable to your learning goals. So you can leverage on these two things, these two elements when it comes to peer-to-peer networks.
And what policy changes or intervention that could address the skills gap effectively?
I think with what we've mentioned just now in terms of time constraint, even in terms of financial barriers, I think it's important for organizations or even some policy changes when it comes to subsidies and also financial assistance for employees, particularly for those with low income backgrounds. Because although we currently do have HRD Corp, that's a great initiative to be able to provide access to communities, to employees, to be able to go into trainings, it's also limited in a sense where it is only accessible to companies that have registered for HRD Corp, and not every company is, nor is small companies potentially able to register for this. But being able to have some more subsidies for trainings that are more easily accessible for low-income people, employees, giving them initiatives to want to upskill will definitely be one of the ways to encourage upskilling and closing the skill gap. We also want to, again, make sure it's accessible. I think the accessibility part is very important for upskilling. So promoting things like mobile learning initiatives, leveraging on smartphones, mobile learning devices to share training content, educational content is also very important. So finding different mobile learning initiatives or companies, training companies that have mobile access and pushing for that and supporting those kinds of initiatives is also a great way to be able to close the skill gap. That means that you have made trainings, you have made upskilling a lot more accessible to the different people in Malaysia.
Can we look at beyond individual initiatives like online courses, or we can see freelance projects?
Yeah, I think for the organization side, it's really a lot about intention. Like, how do you make learning more intentional in your organization? You want to make learning part of your business goals, your KPI goals, your culture, your growth, your processes, so that you can actually cultivate more of a learning mindset in your company. I think that's very important. The employees, your employees, or the organization's employees will need to see learning as more of a job scope rather than something extra that they have to do. So being able to integrate learning into an employee's work processes by providing opportunities for on-the-job training, things like that, is actually a great way for employees to feel like this is relevant, that this is what I need to grow in my role and responsibility. Being able to align, again, learning and development into your business goals is also very important, because this then allows your employees to feel like me learning or me upskilling actually helps the company achieve the goal that they want to achieve. So you want to be able to allow for your employees to feel that learning is part of my scope of work. This will encourage your employees to want to continue upskilling and reskilling in the workforce. And lastly, obviously, is for organizations to really invest in learning technologies and digital platforms. Nowadays, time has changed. Physical training is great, but again, for more accessibility, for more exposure, you want to invest in learning technologies and digital platforms that are easily accessible to your employees across the board. So you want to be able to invest in the correct technology, making it a lot more accessible to deliver the trainings effectively, but also efficiently.
And how do trends like remote work and the gig economy even affect upskilling programs? And we call it what do policymakers, educators, and even employers need to consider in response to this shift in the job market?
When it comes to remote working, I think that just means that certain things that employers or organizations need to organize when it comes to training, we need to shift a little bit when it comes to the upskilling content. Because with the rise of remote working, there is an increased demand when it comes to skill set that's related to things like maybe more virtual kind of collaboration, maybe more skill set to work when it comes to remote communication, or being able to even manage projects digitally, or even tech proficiency is a very important skill set for organizations nowadays, especially when it comes to the rise of remote working. So needing to have upskilling programs or seeking for upskilling programs that incorporate trainings for these kinds of remote working skills will actually help individuals or the current workforce to be able to adapt and thrive in the remote working environment. Remote work also requires a strong sense of digital skill set and technology proficiency. That's just a fact, right? So if we are able to have upskilling programs that prioritize digital literacy, software proficiency, even cybersecurity is something that's very important to meet the demands of these new roles that are coming up in today's market. Lastly, I would say with the growth of remote work or gig economy, it just means that your employees or the people actually are able to collaborate with people from all across the globe, right? Your company is not confined to just one location anymore. You're working with people from all over the world. But that also means that there are different kinds of challenges. It will pose different kinds of challenges, which means that people from diverse cultural backgrounds, different locations, they have different ways of communicating, different nuances, different kinds of behavior, and so on. So also having some kind of upskilling program to tackle these specific challenges, to look into trainings of cross-cultural communication, global collaboration, or even knowing how to communicate with people from different countries will actually help individuals navigate and thrive in remote working environments or multicultural working environments.
Lastly, Celine, what are the strategic goals and initiatives for 2024, and what are the upcoming features from open academies to address the skill gap moving forward?
So at Open Academy, we actually have an app called the Open Academy app. It's a learning platform that turns industry practitioners' experience and insights into bite-sized content. All of the content on the platform is less than 5 minutes because we want to emphasize on the bite-sized learning element. We believe that you can actually learn in under 5 minutes. When it comes to industry practitioners, we really focus on just the industry practitioners. So not everyone on the platform can create content. They go through specific QC or quality check and a curation process before actually the content goes onto the platform. We also emphasize on the Southeast Asian market because we realize that there is a huge gap when it comes to Southeast Asian industry practitioners sharing their insights and knowledge and experiences to the people who are working in Southeast Asia. A lot of the content that we have right now are very international based, which is great, but it may not be applicable to us right here, people who are working in Southeast Asian market. So we emphasize on industry practitioners in Southeast Asia to provide the insights and experience from working in the Southeast Asian market and be able to help individuals upskill from there. So with this two elements, we currently already have about 800 videos on the platform. We work with 50 creators from across different countries in Southeast Asia. Content ranges from business know-hows all the way to the current content like digital marketing, cybersecurity, very suitable for working professionals that want to discover and learn. And in the next few months, we will actually be launching our certification function on our platform. That means that we want to still learn in bite sizes. That's still our emphasis from industry practitioners, but we want to be able to reward individuals that are learning in bite sizes and also feel like their learning is validated. So we're working with a number of different companies and educational bodies right now to provide the necessary certification so that we want to tackle these skill gaps present in Malaysia.
And we hope the collaborative efforts through partnerships or even expansion that is aimed to address the skills gap can ensure the workforce can stay ahead, competitive, and can even also able to future-proof their careers. I want to say thank you very much to Celine Teng, the co-founder and managing director of Open Academy, and all of our discussion will be featured in astro.awani.com.
Terdapat sedikit kebimbangan berkaitan dengan peningkatan kos sara hidup dan juga bagaimana untuk orang ramai mengimbangi peningkatan kos itu dengan perbelanjaan hari raya nanti. Sepanjang bulan Ramadan nanti, cuaca dijangka panas kering sepanjang 30 hari berkenaan.
Peniaga makanan di Bazar Ramadan dinasihatkan supaya jujur dalam menyediakan makanan, terutama dari sudut kualiti dan penjagaan makanan.
Thank you for tuning in. My name is Nabilah, Khaleeda, and I'm still here at KL Convention Center for KL 20 Summit 2024, an inaugural event to elevate and to foster innovation for the whole ecosystems of startups and also investments as well. So to discuss further, joining me right now is the Group CEO of Cradle Funds India Berhad, Norman Matthew Van Hacker. Thank you so much for your time, Norman, joining me right now. Perhaps firstly, we want to ask, my startup established in 2021. maybe you can share on why does My Startup is important for the startup ecosystem as a whole, and perhaps why is it important for the ecosystem?
Thank you. First, before I start, I would like to give a big appreciation to the government of Malaysia for actually bringing together an international event such as KL20. I mean, this is an unprecedented event where we bring a lot of investors, founders, and talents to come together from not just Malaysia, but from the region and outside of Malaysia as well. So coming back to your question now, so My Startup is actually an initiative that was launched in 2021 under the larger Malaysia Startup Ecosystem Roadmap 2021 to 2030. So at first it was envisaged as a directory, a reference for the startup ecosystem. But today and onwards, it will be elevated to become the single window for the entire Malaysian startup ecosystem. Now, I'm not just talking about bringing together all the facilitation, the funding, the support from the government services, but also from the private institutions as well. So we have accelerators, private funders, private investors, and also other startup founders also who are actually coming back to invest into other startups. So it becomes a focal point for the Malaysian startup ecosystem, not just for the people who are here, but also for the people overseas who want to venture into the Malaysian startup ecosystem.
And speaking of My Startup, earlier Mosti announced that through its minister, YB Minister Chang Lee Kang, that My Startup is now the single window initiative to strengthen Malaysian startup ecosystem. And perhaps, Norman, perhaps you could share what are the specific feature or enhancements through this one-stop platform, and how can we foster innovative or perhaps elevate startup ecosystems in Malaysia?
Thank you. So just imagine, as a startup founder in Malaysia, it's hard enough for you to find resources or information on how you're going to start your own business. I mean, I myself actually gone through that kind of experience. We first have to go to SSM to register, and even our company name has to be reviewed, get all the business licenses, find the people, find the talent, find the market, find the customer. All those are actually, Malaysia, we have all that actually, all in place. But it's just that it's high time for us to actually focus it. So if you can imagine, for the startup founders, all information, not just about how to start your business, but also about resources, funding, events, networking opportunities, even investment opportunities as well, in one single platform. But not just a platform, but also a persona for you to actually be curated into very specific experience that is tailored specifically for you as a startup founder. Now imagine if you're an investor. So it's hard enough for investors, new investors, to come in and try to learn the ecosystem as well. So they face similar challenges, but of course differently, on how to navigate the regulations, right? How to set up a fund in Malaysia, how to transfer money and things like that. So there, in that single window platform as well, there is a curated persona for investors as well, to go through and delve deeper into the Malaysian startup ecosystem, the regulatory part, but also to delve into what are the investable startups that are there right now in Malaysia, who are actually open for investments. So they can actually zone in without having to go through a cold calling or anything like that, just a one-stop center for that. Now the thirdly is for tech talents. So right now, I mean, there is a serious focus for the Malaysian government to actually address the tech talent problem. So within the startup ecosystem roadmap, actually we are also targeting 10,000 coders by 2030. So coders and other tech talents are integral part of a technology startup to be able to not just build but grow their business. So there is a special tracked persona for the tech talent themselves to delve into the world of ecosystem, startup ecosystem as well. So startups can actually list down available jobs, and the tech talent themselves also can list their availability, and the matchmaking can happen on that single platform as well. So imagine a unified one-stop center for the whole ecosystem.
And this is actually a great initiative where you can see an evolution in the whole ecosystem of startups and investments. And perhaps, like you mentioned earlier, it helps to address the challenges such as the tech problem, the loopholes in the ecosystem. But how can my startup platform streamline all the process, all the services towards making or perhaps enhancing the whole ecosystem of startup?
So if you imagine the current ecosystem right now, right, if you're a founder, if you want to apply for a grant or any assistance or a program, you have to go, first you have to find where to apply. And then you have to go through different application processes. So different agencies or different parties have different processes, different interfaces, you know. So imagine in the future where everything can just be streamlined via a single interface, you know. So you submit your application via this platform and you can immediately see, I mean, before this you were just testing around because you have to ask the agency, can I apply for this? Am I eligible for this? I don't really understand. But this platform will help solve that. Streamline everything, all the facilitation that we have, like I said, not just under the government, but also the private as well. So that it can be specifically tailored for what you need at what stage you are within your business development growth plan. So yeah, imagine for a startup founder, you go onto the platform, you key in your details, of course, where you are at the stage of growth, the kind of funding you're looking for, the kind of support that you're looking for, the amount of funding even, and then the platform will just do it pretty much all for you and recommend to you the best facilitation, the best funding that will best fit your company.
Speaking of which, speaking of best funding, earlier the ministry straight aims to achieve 5,000 startups in Malaysia by 2025. And as mentioned by YB Minister Chang Lee Kang just now, he says that we have more than 3,900 startups recorded in My Startup portal at the time. So how can we define the startup in this regard?
So a startup, how we define a startup, right? So typically what people would think that is a company that's just starting their business. But actually under the Malaysian Startup Ecosystem Roadmap, a startup is defined as a tech or innovation-enabled company that is scalable with a high growth strategy. So, and the startup ecosystem actually covers end-to-end of the startup's journey. So they may become, so from the early stage when they start their tech business, to the mid stage as they grow and expand, and into the late stage where they go public, they become IPO. So these are where you hear the Grabs and the Carsums, and then the early stage are the ones that are actually just testing with their idea, you know, and developing their product, trying to get the product market fit to get into the commercialization. Yeah, and to start selling into the market as well.
And talking about aspirations, Malaysia aspires to be or to rank among the top 20. Right now we're top 50, but we aim or aspire to be top 20 countries in the global startup ecosystem by 2030, which is 6 years in total. And perhaps how does the enhanced single window can support these initiatives or aspirations?
Imagine when you're trying to go up the ladder of ranking, you need to know where you are. You need to know what you have. You need to know, I mean, information and data is key right now in these days for us to actually advance ourselves. Yes, we have 6 years, but you know, initiative like KL20, the recently launched Malaysia Venture Capital Roadmap, and of course the Super Roadmap as well. And there are other initiatives as well under MOSI and other ministries within the government, which is to actually accelerate the tech ecosystem here in Malaysia. So with that, I think we do have a very bright chance within the next 6 years to actually elevate ourselves. Now, My Startup portal will play the key central role to interface between the ecosystem and what's happening outside there as well. So it elevates the ecosystem via information and data.
and indeed to propel Malaysia into the world's top 20 startup hub by 2030, and also to get 400 million investment for the startup ecosystem. We do need a paradigm shift, and of course I would like to say thank you to Norman Matthew Van Hacker, the Group CEO of Cradle Fund Sdn Bhd. Thank you for your time, and perhaps to speak to you soon in the future.
Awesome, thank you.
Seterusnya, peminjam Perbadanan Tabung Pendidikan Tinggi Nasional atau PTPTN digesa merebut peluang insentif diskaun bayaran balik pinjaman.
Fenomena equinox menjadikan bumi dan matahari berada pada jarak paling dekat dalam sistem solar.
Malaysia berjaya membanteras jenayah berkaitan dadah bernilai 990 juta ringgit sejak 2019.
Jangan meletakkan harapan tinggi berhubung soal mencari jawapan pesawat Malaysia Airlines MH370 yang hilang 10 tahun lepas.
Di dalam KL20 sidang kemuncak ini sudah tentu kita akan memberi fokus dan juga melihat berkenaan dengan apa yang nak dilakukan dan juga bagaimana pelaburan-pelaburan serta pendanaan terutama yang bersifat patuh syariah itu sebenarnya menjadi fokus dan juga tumpuan bukan sahaja di Malaysia ini tapi malah menjadi tumpuan di peringkat Asia Tenggara. Jadi untuk mengulas dengan lebih lanjut bersama dengan saya izinkan saya berbahasa Inggeris. I welcome Junaid Wahidna, the founder and chairman Wahid Invest. Thank you so much for being with us, Astro AWANI. First of all, maybe you can walk us through the journey of founding Wahid Invest, and also what inspired you to start this venture, and what were some of the initial challenges you faced?
Oh, absolutely. So I was in New York at the time. I was working there and I was in the finance industry.
Okay.
And what I noticed that myself and my peers, we all had the same issue. It's where do we keep our savings? You know, we're earning money finally, and what do we do with it? We didn't want to keep it in the bank because the bank is a lending institution. We wanted to make sure that it's Sharia compliant. Banks are not, especially conventional banks in non-Muslim countries, right? So we came up with Wahid to allow people to invest their money so that it's productive, to make sure the portfolios are Sharia compliant, and the key was that we can invest any amount of money, so even small amounts of money. So it was the first time that a normal person can invest their money in a diversified portfolio like a rich person, helping the whole inequality problem that we're all dealing with.
Junaid, Wahid Invest has gained significant traction in the fintech space, and what do you believe sets Wahid apart from other investment platforms, particularly in the context of Sharia compliant investing?
Absolutely. So for us as Wahid, our entire group is Sharia compliant. So we have a North Star, which is to minimize riba exposure. There is absolutely no second North Star. So everything we do, every product we launch is trying to solve what we call the riba problem. And even the launch today, where we're launching an equity crowdfunding platform in Malaysia that's fully Sharia compliant, is part of that riba problem, so that a local Malay entrepreneur doesn't need to go to the bank and get a loan, doesn't need to go to a VC fund and take preferred stock, which absolutely aids in inequality and is not Sharia compliant. And that's a big part of our North Star of minimizing riba.
Junaid, Wahid Invest has successfully raised funding from prominent investors, and could you share some insights into your experience navigating the fundraising process, and also what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs seeking investment in the region?
Absolutely. So I'm a bit of a contrarian, so my take might be a bit different. But basically, we are so strict on the Sharia side that we never raise from a VC fund because they only invest with preferred stock. And preferred stock is not Sharia compliant. So to find investors who will invest in common stock, which means everyone's rights are the same and equitable, like truly the essence of Sharia, was very rare. So we could only raise from family offices, quasi-sovereign wealth funds, really long-term oriented investors who could take that risk. And again, that's a big part of why we're launching Wahid Ventures, so that other entrepreneurs don't have to go through the same hardship that we did in raising funds. And alhamdulillah, today we're very, very large. We've been very successful at fundraising. We're profitable in every single one of our jurisdictions. But the fundraising piece is crucial to solve in the Islamic economy, and Malaysia is the perfect place to do it.
Junaid, I want to bring our discussion into Malaysia and Southeast Asia context. Maybe how has the venture capital landscape evolved, especially in Malaysia and Southeast Asia, since you founded Wahid Invest, and what opportunities and challenges have emerged for startups in this region?
We launched in Malaysia in 2019. So we've been here now almost 5 years, and we've seen a lot of the progress. And for sure, it is a night and day difference between when we first came here, where we had to explain the concept of why we want to push this type of tech innovation and get all the stakeholders together. Today, the government has rallied together to push us. It's a beautiful thing. So this new product we're launching, it has been so smooth in getting the regulatory license, getting the stakeholders together. The entire country is supporting innovation, and so it's a really good place right now, and I would say a lot better than it was previously, and that's a natural progression of most economies.
Wahid Invest has, for example, your view, what are some key factors contributing to the growth of the startup ecosystem in Malaysia? Maybe in Southeast Asia also, how do you see this ecosystem evolving in the coming years?
So, I think one of the single largest assets of Malaysia is its youth, right? So if you look at our client base, even of Wahid, the average age is below 30. 85% of our clients are between 18 and 35. It's a very young economy. There's a lot of good educational infrastructure and a huge amount of entrepreneurship potential. So I really feel that all the ingredients exists in this country. You have, the mature regulator, judiciary, you have a strong economy, you have resources, and the most important thing, which is to your question, is the human resource pool, the youth of Malaysia, and we're very happy to try and support them in creating this entire ecosystem of technology.
Junaid, when we said about the ecosystem, especially in Southeast Asia, Singapore, our neighbor, of course, being the hub, and also most of the entrepreneurs, especially the new young startups, technological startups, are look forward to base in Singapore, with being said that as the holistic, they provide holistic ecosystem. You mentioned about the specialty of Malaysia, the young and vibrant youth that venture, that loves into tech and also investments. How do you see next? How do you see this kind of platform like KL20 bring forward Malaysia to a different level, to a further level compared to other competitors, even our neighbour Singapore? Okay, I can put it as competitor. Singapore is our competitor.
Fair enough. So Singapore is definitely the top choice, you could say, in the region. But I wouldn't say that's to actually have your startup and earn money. I would say that's to domicile your company. So for example, Grab, right? Everyone uses Grab in the region. Most of Grab's revenue comes from Malaysia. It's just registered in Singapore. So I do feel that the actual value is still in Malaysia, and the reason people pick Singapore is because of that judiciary, the tax regime, like the corporate kind of wrapper surrounding Singapore that allows foreign investors to have comfort to bring money in. In my opinion, Malaysia is mature enough to be able to do the same. And now, especially with this new government initiative where they're putting everything together, it should be very easy, in my opinion, for Malaysia to compete with Singapore and have people bring money directly into Malaysia rather than have to set up an entity in Singapore but still service Malaysia as the main revenue stream.
Room of improvement. How you see what kind of room of improvement that Malaysia need to be done in order to be a top 20, because the government targeting Malaysia to be top 20 in the region for the hub of startups.
Top 20 in the region? Are there 20 countries in the region?
Global, 20 in the global for the startups. How do you see that? How room of improvement to achieve that goals?
I think a lot of people are just not aware for some reason of Malaysia's potential. I know even honestly we weren't, right? Until we came here and we launched and we're like, wait a minute, this is the perfect economy. You have numbers and you have a decently high wealth per capita, you have natural resources. It's deep.
Yeah, right.
You know, the issue, for example, with countries like Indonesia, more of frontier markets, is the very low, you know, revenue sizes, right? The average revenue per user
Although
is
they
tiny.
have a bigger market in the region. Yeah.
And then you have Brunei, where the wealth is much, you know, higher, but the numbers are much smaller. Malaysia is that perfect middle ground. I feel Malaysia should be that hub of this entire region. And if they can achieve that, which I believe is genuinely possible, then you're automatically in the top 20.
Okay. In your view, what are maybe the ecosystem? When we said about ecosystem, I would like to connect back with Wahid Invest. That okay, Wahid Invest operates at the intersection of finance and technology, right? So, how do you see technology continuing to disrupt the traditional financial services industry, particularly in emerging markets like in Southeast Asia?
Okay. This may not be the most popular take, but from what we see, the financial ecosystem today is completely dominated by lending institutions, right? Banks. Banks, and even if you look at the startups, the ones with the most revenue are the lenders. Now, what people don't realize is with for-profit lending, it is proven time and time again, this is what creates inequality. Inequality in Malaysia is getting worse. Every single year, it's still happening. And that's because of lending institutions. With technological advancement, it allows pure equity players like ourselves to compete on an equal footing. Because we don't have to have, you know, we don't have as high of margins, right? We're not taking lending spreads. So when we can compete, the natural choice of the Malay consumer who is Sharia conscious is not to be with a lending institution. No one wants to create inequality. No one wants to keep their money in a lending institution, but they have no option, right? So if we make the efficient investment universe good enough, comparable enough, which now we can with technological advancement and continue to do so, right? With now the AI applications in every single part of the value chain. So it may look, you know, daunting that, oh, a lot of jobs may be lost, but the net benefit will be finally you can compete with almost like a monopoly industry, right, of banking, which was never possible before. So I'm very excited for the next 10 years to be able to actually have a fighting chance at pushing Islamic finance and trying to solve this quote-unquote riba problem, right, which is now so normalized. Everyone's just okay with banks for some reason.
Islamic banking, when you said about Islamic banking, Islamic finance, Malaysia has been, I mean, few experts in Malaysia and even Malaysia being as a guidance to few other countries in terms of implementing Islamic finance. Talking about Sharia compliant finance that is gaining momentum globally, what opportunities do you see for further innovation and expansion in this space, both within Southeast Asia and beyond?
So we're entering a bit of a contentious territory, right? With because when you say Islamic finance, it includes the whole financial ecosystem, and banks and lenders are just one part of the financial institution, right? So then you have the brokers, the custodians, the asset managers, anything and everything else, and you have banks. So I do not think we should be conflating Islamic finance with Islamic banking. Banking, by definition, is a money lending activity, right? So Islamic money lending is a bit of an oxymoron in any case. It's not like anyone likes it, right? So I genuinely feel that Malaysia, being actually conscious of the halal economy, wanting to actually further Islamic finance, has always been at the forefront of Islamic finance, like you said, is perfectly placed to try and come up with a genuine alternative to keeping your money in a lending institution. And again, that's literally what we're trying to build out, right? We're saying you can keep your money more efficiently, more cost effectively outside a money lending institution. And it's better for you because you earn money over time, it's productive, and you're not creating inequality as a byproduct.
Junaid, building a successful startup often requires collaboration and partnership. Can you, maybe your thoughts, some strategic partnership that have been instrumental, especially in Wahid Invest growth, particularly within the Southeast Asian market?
Yeah. So what we've seen is speaking to, having a conversation with government entities is very helpful. So our partnerships with entities like the MDEC, the regulator, the SC, has been very fruitful, very nice, very consultative, and Malaysia has been really good for us, better than I'd say anywhere else in the world. And we're regulated by 10 jurisdictions. Now partnerships with for-profit players, I would say not so much, because if you think about the economy, it's for-profit, everyone's competing, it's almost a zero-sum game, you can say, and especially with our rhetoric, saying, you should invest your money, not keep it at a lending institution. As you can imagine, everyone's a lending institution, so they don't really like that. They say if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. But we want to go really fast, like a rocket ship, so we're going alone, which is, again, contrarian take. But yeah.
As an entrepreneur, what are some valuable lessons you've learned along the way? Or are there any specific challenges unique to operating in Southeast Asia that you've had to overcome?
There was a bit of a glass ceiling, to be honest with you, because in these economies, there's still a bit of there isn't a clear divide between government institutions and for-profit institutions.
Okay.
Right? So we are, in essence, to a certain extent, competing with government entities, and that makes things almost impossible. So, for example, where do people keep their money? They keep it with ASNB, for example. And then whatever's left over, they look, where should I invest it, right? So for a for-profit institution, for the economy to thrive, it's very difficult to compete with a government institution, who can guarantee things, get Sharia fatwas, whenever they want. Like, it's just a bit of an unfair competition. So that's something we've had to try and navigate. And alhamdulillah, today we're profitable in Malaysia. We've been able to find a fit in this economy, but that's still one of our biggest, you could say, threats. It's actually government-backed companies coming and eating us alive.
Junaid, looking ahead, what are your aspirations for the future of Wahid Invest, and how do you envision the company's role in shaping the future of finance, both regionally and globally?
Right. So, for the past, I don't know, decades, maybe centuries, finance has been dominated by lending institutions. We're here to try and educate people in saying it is more productive, it is better for everyone to actually have your money in assets, in a custodian of wealth, be productive with it. That's what Islam teaches us. That's what efficient economics teaches us, right? Rich people don't keep their money in a bank account. They've invested it in multiple assets, real estate, commodities, equities. They have a whole portfolio. We want everyone to be doing that so that divide doesn't increase and it's truly Sharia compliant. And our entire mission in life is to defeat riba, so to speak, the interest-based inequality creation. So we will continue to launch products to have alternatives for all riba-based products, and the harder ones are yet to come, right? Solving for mortgages, solving for loans, so on and so forth. That's very hard to do. First you have to accumulate the money, and then we have a geographic mandate. We have a list of 50 countries, and we're going to slowly start knocking them all down. We're already regulated in 10 countries, covering almost 1 billion Muslims, and we're going to be going to a lot more, inshallah. So it's full steam ahead.
Congratulations on this long journey that you've been going through. Thank you so much for being with us. Inshallah, in the next time, will be time to time we'll keep on contact, and also highlights on the issue of fighting riba, and also good investments, and also finance, especially to help young entrepreneurs, especially in Muslim countries. Sekian sahaja untuk waktu ini perkongsian saya seiring dengan penganjuran sidang kemuncak KL 2024 ini. Saya Harits Asyraf Hasnan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good to be back. Kita hidup bermasyarakat ni kena saling bantu-membantu. Saya tidak akan menghapuskan masyarakat kita. Sahabat-sahabat mesti diutamakan.
Tak puasa maknanya 6 jahanam.
Kena saya lagi. Ya.
Multiverse tu. 19 puasa Playboys of Plastik Hitam. Sewa dan stream on demand atau sila ke saluran 480.
5 lelaki penghantar makanan didakwa di Mahkamah Magistrate Bangi atas tuduhan membunuh seorang pemandu kereta lelaki dalam satu kejadian.
4 sungai di sekitar kawasan perindustrian Pasir Gudang di Johor termasuk Sungai Kim Kim didapati tercemar dan berada pada tahap yang membimbangkan. Kerajaan sudah mulakan inisiatif untuk menggantikan kenderaan operasinya kepada kenderaan elektrik EV dalam skala kecil terlebih dahulu.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Pastikan Astro AWANI menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada.
Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Ini agenda AWANI. Malam ini kita akan berbicara tentang Hari Harta Intelek Sedunia dan mengapa pentingnya kita mengambil kisah ataupun mengambil berat berkaitan dengan harta intelek. Kerana kita sudah maklum apa yang berlaku di dunia kita pada hari ini dengan perkembangan digital, media sosial dan sebagainya. Kalau kita ingat yang viral, yang tular dalam beberapa bulan ini atau tahun yang lalu, misalnya seorang usahawan mengusahakan sambal dalam masa beberapa jam saja jutaan pulangannya ataupun keuntungannya dikutip melalui jualan di atas talian. Begitu juga bagi orang wanita, seorang wanita yang ingin membeli tudung misalnya, pelbagai jenis tudung, ada bawalnya, ada siakap lah, apa namanya lah, saya pun tak tahulah. Jadi semuanya ini penting kerana setiap usahawan, setiap syarikat mahukan produk mereka dikenali. Tetapi jika tidak dipatenkan ataupun didaftarkan hak cipta dan sebagainya, maka orang lain boleh gunakan. Jadi apabila orang lain ataupun syarikat lain menggunakan, anda tidak boleh mengalah ataupun anda tidak boleh marah kerana itu tidak dipatenkan. Jadi untuk berbicara perkara ini berkaitan dengan harta intelek di negara kita, bagaimana kesedarannya, bagaimana kepentingannya dan juga apa signifikan kepada Hari Harta Intelek Sedunia yang akan dilangsungkan. Jadi saya akan bersama yang berbahagia Tuan Kamal Kormin di sebelah kanan saya, Ketua Pengarah MIPO ataupun Perbadanan Harta Intelek Malaysia ataupun MIPO. Assalamualaikum Tuan Kamal, apa khabar?
Waalaikumsalam. Khabar baik, alhamdulillah.
Tuan Kamal, contoh yang saya bawa awal tadi itu betul ke?
Wah, itu memang betul. Sekarang ini sangat
baik, betul. Okay.
Wah, sangat tepatlah tu, sangat menarik dan sangat viral lah.
Ya.
Sangat menarik pada benda itu di.
Tetapi asasnya adalah kita perlu daftarkan harta intelek itu. Apa juga jenama, apa juga produk, apa juga barangan yang kita keluarkan, sama ada syarikat PMKS, syarikat sedia berhad ataupun individu yang mengeluarkan lagu, muzik dan sebagainya perlu didaftarkan dan itu dirujuk kepada fungsi MIPO.
Ya, betul. Jadi di sini terima kasihlah sebenarnya saya nak jemput MIPO dalam program pada malam ini. InsyaAllah sedikitlah saya nak memperkenalkan Perbadanan Harta Intelek itu apa. Dan harta intelek itu sendiri apa. Sebelum tu saya nak kongsilah
jenis-jenis
jenis-jenis betul. Perbadanan Harta Intelek Malaysia ataupun MIPO adalah sebuah agensi di bawah Kementerian Perdagangan Dalam Negeri dan Kos Sara Hidup atau KPDN lah. Jadi tujuan ini kita agensi tunggal yang mengawal, mentadbir harta intelek di Malaysia. Jadi harta intelek itu apa sebenarnya? Seperti mana mungkin ada rakyat Malaysia pun sebahagian dah tahu harta intelek apa. Tapi untuk tujuan pada hari ini, saya nak kongsi bersamalah. Harta intelek itu adalah idea ataupun kreatif daripada Malaysia yang dilindungi dalam undang-undang. Jadi dia terbagi kepada 6 komponen. Satu, itu patent tadi disebut Kemudian cap dagangan,